we saw a layer of rocks that are vertical, and on top of them, the rocks are again horizontal.
What if the most profound secret about human existence was buried beneath the Gulf of Mexico for 5,000 years, hidden from the world until now? Imagine an ancient book, perfectly preserved in the depths, detailing knowledge about the human mind that modern science is only beginning to understand. This discovery challenges everything we think we know about history, consciousness, and what it means to be human. Why would such knowledge be sealed away beneath the ocean floor? And what could it possibly warn us about? This story reveals a mysterious past, encoded in impossible technology and ancient wisdom that dares us to question the very nature of identity and survival. The underwater discovery. In late 2023, a team of deep-sea archaeologists embarked on what was supposed to be a routine geological survey in the Gulf of Mexico. Their mission was to map ancient coastline formations from the last ice age, working about 180 miles off the Yucatan Peninsula, in waters over 2,400 feet deep. As their side-scan sonar swept the seafloor, scanning in precise grids, it picked up something unexpected, a structure that defied the natural chaos of underwater geography. It was sharp, geometric, and intentionally built, a stark contrast to the irregular shapes of surrounding rocks and sediment. Dr. Sarah Chen, the lead marine archaeologist, inspected the sonar data with growing intrigue. The structure appeared as a stepped platform, partially buried under centuries of sediment, yet remarkably intact. Its architectural style bore no resemblance to known Mesoamerican ruins or Mayan pyramids. Instead, it suggested something altogether different and utterly mysterious. To investigate, the team deployed a remotely operated vehicle armed with high-definition cameras and robotic arms, descending for almost 40 minutes into near-total darkness where sunlight could not reach. Upon reaching the platform, the robotic cameras revealed an astonishing sight: precisely cut stone blocks, fitted together with uncanny accuracy, showing no significant signs of erosion or wear, typical of underwater ruins. At the platform's center was a sealed chamber about 12 feet in diameter. What amazed the team most was the chamber's entrance, not sealed by stone, but by a dark, glassy, crystalline material they had never encountered before. This seal had survived intact for thousands of years in intense seawater conditions and pressures. For hours, the vehicle's manipulator arms worked meticulously to open the seal. After 6 painstaking hours, a small opening emerged and the camera peered inside. The chamber was almost empty, save for a single stone pedestal in its center. Resting atop that pedestal was a rectangular object, about 14 inches tall and 10 inches wide, wrapped in a metallic fabric that gleamed faintly under the artificial lights. To the astonishment of the team, what should have decayed long ago looked as if it had been placed there just yesterday. The decision was made to retrieve this mysterious artifact. The robotic arm delicately lifted the wrapped object and secured it for the slow journey back to the surface. Once aboard the research vessel Atlantis, the team carefully prepared for further analysis. 48 hours later, in a controlled lab at Woods Hole Oceanographic Institution, they cautiously unwrapped the object. The metallic fabric was unlike anything known, woven from impossibly thin gold and copper alloy threads, forming a dense mesh that kept water from penetrating, even after millennia underwater. As layers peeled away, a bound codex emerged, its binding perfectly intact and pages free from a single trace of water damage. The pages, around 200 in number, were made from a material unlike papyrus, parchment, or any other known ancient writing medium. The team had stumbled upon an ancient book in an impossible state of preservation, its surfaces covered in mysterious symbols and detailed images. What they saw next would shake the foundations of history and science. This discovery was not merely a relic, it was an enigma wrapped in questions. How could such a delicate object survive 5,000 years underwater? What secrets did it hold? The answers seemed poised to challenge everything humanity thought it understood about its origins and consciousness. The revelation of this unexpected underwater find opened a door not just to the past, but to an unfathomable mystery beneath history's surface. Ancient technology beyond time. The materials and engineering behind this codex and its chamber defied known human capabilities, present and past. Upon deeper examination, the pages felt like paper, but weren't. They had the texture of fabric, but were clearly not textile. Under high-powered microscopes, the pages revealed a molecular structure that truly stunned scientists. Dr. Elena Voss, a material scientist at MIT, was among those called to investigate samples taken from the codex. What she discovered went beyond what current industry could produce. The codex pages were made of a bioengineered cellulose hybrid polymer, synthesized with nanotechnology that incorporated a graphene-like lattice woven invisibly into the fibers. This provided remarkable durability and extraordinary resistance to degradation, allowing the codex to withstand harsh ocean conditions for millennia. When a small sample was deliberately sliced with a scalpel, the material exhibited self-healing properties. Over 72 hours, the microscopic cut slowly sealed itself as molecular bonds reformed. This was nanotechnology centuries ahead of anything modern laboratories could replicate. The metallic wrapping was equally baffling. The gold and copper alloy wires were woven at a nanowire scale roughly 50 nanometers thick. Producing such ultra-fine threads with perfect uniformity challenges even 21st-century metallurgists. The weave was so dense, it functioned as a Faraday cage, isolating the contents completely from electromagnetic interference. Caltech researchers attempted to reproduce a fragment of this fabric, but after weeks, their best effort remained a crude shadow of the ancient original's precision and resilience. The crystalline seal blocking the chamber's entrance posed its own mystery. Composed of an obsidian composite embedded with a silicon carbide matrix, it boasted a melting point exceeding 2,900 degrees Fahrenheit and bond strength surpassing modern aerospace ceramics. Efforts to synthesize this compound in labs repeatedly failed to match the seal's robustness. This sealed chamber, crafted with such sophisticated materials, was a technological marvel lost to time. Carbon dating was swiftly employed to reveal the artifact's true age. Samples were independently tested at 3 renowned laboratories: Oxford University, the University of Arizona, and a facility in Miami. The results consistently dated the codex between 4,800 and 5,200 years old. To rule out contamination, thermoluminescence dating of the crystalline seal and ocean sediment analysis around the chamber confirmed the same time frame. This placed the construction firmly at the close of the last ice age, when sea levels were significantly lower. The platform had been built on dry land, only to be submerged as glaciers melted and oceans rose. This suggested the builders anticipated the inevitability of submersion and deliberately sealed their knowledge away in the depths. The technological sophistication of the materials raised profound questions about the civilization responsible. Who were they? And what knowledge did they intend to preserve for future generations, or to protect from them entirely? These facts sketched a picture of lost science and craftsmanship that modern humanity is only beginning to comprehend. The Codex is not just an ancient manuscript, it's a masterpiece of materials engineering that challenges assumptions about early technological advancement. The mystery deepened as the team began deciphering the book's inscrutable writing system, a linguistic puzzle that defied conventional understanding. Decoding the unknown language. The writing system covering the Codex's pages presented a formidable challenge even to seasoned experts. Dr. Marcus Webb, a cryptolinguist from Cambridge with experience in undeciphered scripts, took the lead on the translation. The symbols blended pictographic signs with complex geometric patterns, bearing no resemblance to any known language family. For 8 months, progress was slow. The team cataloged symbols, mapped patterns, and fed data into AI-driven recognition algorithms searching for grammatical or syntactical clues. The breakthrough came unexpectedly when they realized the Codex was not written in a traditional language at all. Instead, the notation resembled modern mathematical or chemical formulae designed specifically to map states of consciousness. As the symbols fell into place, it became clear that the text described neural functions, cognitive processes, and awareness states using a symbolic logic that predated formal logic by thousands of years. This wasn't a story or scripture. It was a scientific manual on mind and consciousness. The first successfully translated passage was chillingly profound. It described the observer splitting from itself to experience form, likening memory to the collapse of probability into a singular stream. The text portrayed individual consciousness as a temporary isolation of a universal field. It went further, asserting that forgetting this unity was necessary to survive in material reality. This was not just abstract philosophy, it was a profound explanation for human identity and cognition. Accompanying the translations were 47 meticulously detailed illustrations of brain anatomy, unmatched in accuracy until modern medical imaging. Dr. Sarah Patel, a neurosurgeon at Johns Hopkins, compared these drawings to contemporary neurological atlases. The closeness was astonishing. Structures like the pineal gland were highlighted repeatedly, with annotations describing it as a gateway to previous unity. The prefrontal cortex, associated with self-awareness, was labeled the seat of constructed identity. The Codex challenged the mainstream notion that consciousness originates solely from brain activity. Rather, it depicted the brain as a receiver and filter of consciousness, individual awareness as a localized fragment of a vast, unified field temporarily partitioned to facilitate material experience. The book even contained instructions for accessing original memory, techniques for dissolving ego boundaries, and ways to experience non-dual awareness, states science only recently began to explore. It was a symbolic and scientific masterpiece, piercing together ancient wisdom and modern discoveries. The text described humanity's conscious evolution as the Great Separation, a deliberate shift from collective unity to fragmented individuality to function in the material world. This shift, however, severed access to universal awareness. The lack of any reference to mythology suggested this was empirical knowledge passed down, hidden, but real. The implications of decoding this language went far beyond ancient history. It suggested an entire body of knowledge about consciousness had been deliberately encoded, preserved, and concealed. But why? And how had these ancient people come by such advanced understanding without modern tools? These questions set the stage for revelations that could rewrite human history. The mystery of the book's language was not just a cryptic puzzle. It was a key, unlocking a map of human consciousness lost through millennia. Yet, the most unsettling answers were still to come. With the Codex's language deciphered, the focus shifted from the enigma of the vessel itself to the astonishing knowledge it contained about human consciousness and identity. Revelations about consciousness. The ancient Codex offered a window into human consciousness unlike anything previously imagined. Rather than describing consciousness as a byproduct of the brain, the text portrayed it as a universal field, something that the brain receives and filters. Individual awareness, according to the Codex, is a temporary fragmentation from a larger, unified whole. This idea directly challenges the modern materialist perspective and suggests that our sense of self is both limited and constructed. Central to the Codex's teachings was the concept of original memory, ancestral knowledge that precedes individual incarnation. Detailed instructions revealed methods to dissolve the boundaries of ego and access a non-dual state of awareness. This condition, called unity consciousness, allowed individuals to temporarily reunite with the universal field from which all consciousness fragments emerge. Such states, though rare, are documented across many spiritual and mystical traditions as moments of profound clarity and connection. The text highlighted specific neurological structures with remarkable precision. The pineal gland was depicted as the gateway to previous unity, hinting at its role as a biological portal to transcendent states. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex was called the seat of constructed identity, emphasizing its role in creating the experience of a separate self. This duality suggested a biological basis for the divide between collective awareness and individual perception. These insights were far ahead of their time, predating modern neuroscience by millennia. The diagrams showed neural pathways, synaptic connections, and electrical activity patterns that only recently became visible through advanced imaging technologies. It was as if someone had mapped the inner workings of the brain thousands of years before the tools existed to observe them. This level of understanding reshaped how the team viewed the history of human knowledge. The Codex explained memory as the collapse of probability into a singular stream, a poetic yet precise description of how potential realities condense into conscious experience. The observer's self divides from the unified field to experience form, creating the illusion of separation. Crucially, This division was not accidental, but necessary for survival in the physical world, a temporary forgetting that allowed consciousness to function in a material environment. This forgetting, the Codex warned, comes at a cost. It isolates us from the universal knowledge housed within the collective consciousness field. The text suggested that humanity's journey through individuality is a kind of exile, forced by the constraints of material life. Yet, the possibility of return, rekindling that unity, remains open, though fraught with risks and challenges. One of the most striking revelations was the portrayal of consciousness as something pre-existing the brain, not produced by it. This view offered a new lens through which to understand identity, cognition, and the nature of existence. It also called into question long-held assumptions that consciousness is merely an emergent property of neural complexity. The implications extended beyond theory into practice, as the Codex described techniques for meditative and ritual practices designed to reawaken this original memory. These methods spoke of dissolving ego boundaries and reconnecting with the universal field, suggesting that ancient civilizations possessed profound tools for self-transcendence that modern science is only beginning to rediscover. Ultimately, the Codex's revelations about consciousness painted a deeply interconnected picture of human existence, one where individuality is a chapter in a much larger story of unity, separation, and the quest to reunite. Parallels with modern neuroscience. As the team continued to study the Codex, they found that its ancient knowledge astonishingly paralleled recent breakthroughs in neuroscience. Modern research on the brain's default mode network, or DMN, has shown this system is key to our sense of self and internal narrative. When the DMN's activity diminishes, whether through meditation, psychedelic substances, profound experiences, individuals often report ego dissolution and a feeling of unity with all things. These are exactly the states described in the Codex. Clinical trials at Imperial College London, exploring the effects of psilocybin therapy, documented participants entering states where their separate identity faded, replaced by a sense of oneness. Brain imaging revealed neural connectivity patterns during these experiences that eerily matched the Codex's detailed consciousness maps. It was as though the Codex had predicted or encoded findings only science has verified in the last decade. The text's depiction of the Great Separation, humanity's shift from collective consciousness to fragmented individuality, reflected these modern discoveries. It framed this transition not as evolution, but as a deliberate adaptation for functioning within physical reality. This shift limited access to universal knowledge, but made survival possible, revealing a trade-off built into human consciousness. Studies of near-death experiences further reinforced the Codex's messages. Individuals clinically dead and then revived recounted dissolution of self, timeless awareness, and profound interconnectedness, phenomena mirrored in the Codex's descriptions of original memory and unity. The cross-cultural consistency of these accounts suggested they describe genuine neuropsychological states rather than mere hallucination. Quantum theories of consciousness also resonated with the Codex's ideas. The orchestrated objective reduction model proposed by Roger Penrose and Stuart Hameroff posits that consciousness arises from quantum processes linked to a fundamental level of reality. This aligns closely with the Codex's concept of a unified consciousness field underlying individual awareness. These striking parallels added scientific weight to what otherwise might be dismissed as mystical or metaphorical. The Codex's descriptions form a bridge between ancient wisdom and cutting-edge science, capturing the mechanics of mind and awareness with disturbing accuracy. Moreover, recognizing consciousness as a field with universal and fragmented aspects challenges entrenched beliefs about the brain's role, identity, and the nature of reality. It invites profound rethinking about what it means to be human. While the Codex pushes the boundaries of accepted knowledge, it also opens hopeful pathways to reconnect with forgotten states, to heal divisions within ourselves, and to explore consciousness beyond the limits we thought natural. Understanding these links between ancient insight and modern neuroscience shifts the story from mystery to urgent inquiry, deepening the questions about how this knowledge was acquired, why it was hidden, and what it means for our future. Each new discovery in neuroscience brings us closer to the profound truths encrypted in that ancient underwater book, revealing a connection between past and present that may redefine humanity itself. The global web of knowledge. The enigmatic Codex is not an isolated oddity. Its revelations resonate across ancient cultures around the world. From the Vedic texts of India to the Upanishads, we find strikingly similar concepts describing an infinite universal consciousness, often called Brahman, from which individual souls temporarily separate before reuniting. The meditative techniques described in those ancient Indian scriptures mirror the Codex's instructions for accessing unity, suggesting a shared understanding of consciousness, predating written history. Ancient Egyptian writings also echo these ideas. The Book of the Dead speaks of the Ka, a person's life force or consciousness, which separates from the physical body. Egyptian texts frame individual identity as a transient mask worn by an eternal awareness that exists beyond the physical life. Like the Codex, they describe consciousness as something more fundamental than the self, a thread connecting human existence to a broader, timeless field. In Sumerian culture, tablets refer to something called me, often interpreted as fundamental codes or programming that shape awareness and identity. These codes were said to belong to the gods, but were accessible through rituals and altered states, practices not unlike those detailed in the underwater manuscript. Australian Aboriginal traditions offer another parallel through the concept of dream time, which isn't mythology, but a real consciousness state where boundaries dissolve and all existence blends as one. This widespread pattern of describing a pre-individual, universal state of consciousness underscores a remarkable global continuity. Every major ancient culture acknowledged a state before separation, a unity from which humanity fell through forgetting or separation. Most date their knowledge or its crystallization between 3,000 and 5,000 years ago, roughly the time the Gulf Codex was sealed beneath the sea. Archaeological evidence supports this textual web of knowledge. Underwater stone formations off Japan's coast, like the Yonaguni Monument, display geometrical precision and tool marks, suggesting intentional construction during eras of lower sea levels. Similarly, Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, dating back over 11,000 years, features monumental stone circles and carvings aligned with celestial phenomena. Remarkably, this site was deliberately buried by its builders, hidden by design, not destroyed by disaster. This deliberate concealment appears as a recurring theme. Ancient civilizations may have chosen to hide profound knowledge, perhaps out of reverence, caution, or fear. The pattern spans continents and epochs, hinting at a shared cultural instinct to protect secrets that could upend established understandings of existence. Modern neuroscience offers unsettling confirmation of these ancient teachings. Brain networks linked to selfhood behave exactly as the Codex predicts when altered by meditation or psychedelics. The convergence of text, archaeology, and science suggests the ancients knew something humanity has forgotten, or been compelled to forget. This growing web of evidence pushes us to reconsider what we know about history, consciousness, and the delicate dance between knowledge and mystery that has shaped our world for millennia. What emerges is not just a story of lost civilizations, but a vast, interconnected map of awareness stretching back into prehistory. A map hidden beneath layers of time, culture, and sea. The warning within. Beneath the astonishing discoveries lies a profoundly unsettling message. The Codex is not a mere encyclopedia of knowledge. It is, above all, a warning, one about what humanity deliberately chose to forget and why that forgetting was essential for survival. The text makes clear that the shift from unified consciousness to separated individuality was not an accident, but a necessary compromise to exist in what it calls material density. This warning speaks of a great separation, where individual identity emerged as a protective adaptation. Yet, returning to full awareness of original unity comes at a grave cost. The Codex states that those who remember cannot function in the material world. The boundaries that sustain physical life vanish, and with them, the ability to survive ordinary existence. This makes the act of remembering a double-edged sword. enlightening yet potentially destructive. The final pages, clearly written by a different hand in a more urgent tone, underscore the gravity of this choice. The authors emphasize that the knowledge is hidden not to destroy, but to protect future generations from the dangers of premature awakening. They warn that return without anchor destroys the vessel, meaning that without a stable identity, material life unravels. This is a conscious act of concealment stretched across millennia. Geological and structural analysis offers context. The chamber was constructed deliberately at a landmass center destined to be submerged by rising seas. The builders were racing against inevitable floodwaters, sealing their most precious knowledge underwater, where it would be nearly impossible to find by accident. The crystalline seal's extraordinary durability reinforces the intention to preserve for the long haul, not for casual discovery. Artifacts around the pedestal deepen the mystery. Ceramic vessels contained residues of psychoactive substances like psilocybin mushroom spores and DMT precursors. The presence of these compounds suggests the chamber was a site for consciousness-expanding rituals. These ceremonies likely mirrored the practices outlined in the Codex, indicating a sophisticated understanding of altered states that bridged mind, body, and spirit. Such rituals appear as a kind of safeguard, allowing controlled access to unity states while acknowledging the risks. The Codex's warnings may have been born from hard-won experience, knowledge passed down with a solemn responsibility to protect all who seek it. Psychological phenomena documented today, such as depersonalization disorder or cases of severe ego dissolution, bear eerie similarities to the Codex's cautionary tales. People who lose the anchors of identity often struggle to function, underscoring the delicate balance between consciousness expansion and grounded survival. This profound warning reframes the entire discovery. The Codex is not an invitation to abandon identity, but a guide for navigating the tension between unity and separation. It asks whether humanity is prepared to face what was once known and deliberately hidden, to keep civilization intact. The knowledge buried beneath the gulf holds its own stark choice: to remember and risk losing the material self, or to live fragmented but stable within the boundaries of individual identity. Such a choice lies at the heart of the human story, one written not only in ancient stone and ink, but inside every mind, wrestling with the mystery of self, the modern silence, and its implications. Despite the groundbreaking nature of the Gulf Codex discovery, the response from the scientific community and institutions has been astonishingly muted. Mere months after the artifact surfaced, it disappeared from public view, quietly transferred to a secure, undisclosed location. No formal announcements or explanations were offered. The lead researchers, including Dr. Sarah Chen, signed non-disclosure agreements, their excitement replaced by an uneasy silence, as if an invisible barrier had descended over the entire project. Efforts to publish the findings met with resistance. Peer-reviewed journals rejected papers detailing the Codex, citing concerns over extraordinary claims and potential disruption to established scientific frameworks. Conference presentations were cancelled, government agencies revoked excavation permits, and data from the expedition was scrubbed from public servers. Universities pressured scholars to distance themselves from the research, with funding drying up and careers jeopardized. The message was unmistakable. This discovery was to be kept under wraps. The involvement of powerful institutions extended beyond academia. UNESCO initially expressed interest, but later withdrew its request for custody. Officials from the Vatican inquired about viewing the Codex, only to retract their request. Pharmaceutical companies, with significant stakes in treating consciousness disorders, sought material samples but abruptly ceased their attempts. Defense Department consultants visited the laboratory, their motives undisclosed. This constellation of actions points to an intricate web of control and secrecy surrounding the Codex. One plausible explanation lies in the profound challenge this knowledge poses, not just to science, but to established social, political, and economic orders. Pharmaceutical industries, for example, generate billions treating mental health issues grounded in current understandings of consciousness. The Codex's revelations undermine these foundations. threatening those economic interests. Religious institutions face doctrinal challenges if consciousness is not individual and eternal as traditionally believed. Governments rely on separate individual identities for social stability, legal systems, and tax structures to function effectively. Yet, there may be another side to this silence. It could represent not suppression, but protection. History shows that every civilization uncovering this knowledge has buried it again, not purely from fear or control, but due to genuine concern about the consequences of exposing humanity to existential truths. The knowledge that individual selfhood is a temporary fragment of a unified consciousness challenges the very basis of personal identity and societal functioning. Revealing it too widely or too soon might destabilize both individuals and civilization. This protective instinct manifests repeatedly across millennia. The Codex's concealment aligns with ancient practices seen in sites like Göbekli Tepe and submerged monuments worldwide, places intentionally hidden, not destroyed. The same pattern of discovery followed by deliberate burial or silence suggests a universal recognition of the perilous power contained within. Knowing too much about unity and separation may fracture the fragile cohesion maintaining human society. Meanwhile, psychology today offers glimpses into the difficulties of navigating such awareness. Conditions involving ego dissolution show how profoundly disorienting full realization of unity can be, sometimes rendering individuals unable to engage normally with the material world. The Codex's warning that return without anchor destroys the vessel reflects this lived reality, emphasizing the need for boundaries to endure in physical existence. The gulf between ancient wisdom and modern suppression poses a critical question. Can humanity responsibly integrate this hidden knowledge without unraveling the social fabric? Or is intentional amnesia of our full nature a necessary element of survival? The Codex forces us to confront this paradox, challenging us to reconsider what progress really means. In the end, the silence surrounding the Codex underscores a profound tension. It hints at truths too disruptive to freely embrace, yet essential to explore if we are to understand ourselves and our collective destiny more fully. This 5,000-year-old underwater book forces us to rethink everything we know about consciousness, identity, and history. Its secrets challenge science, threaten powerful interests, and reveal a fragile balance between knowledge and survival. If this discovery teaches us anything, it's that the quest for truth is as complex as the minds seeking it. If you found this journey fascinating, remember to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more deep dives into mysteries that reshape our world.